drying it. The apples are crunchy, which I like that. Hey guys, I am back baking the cobbler. This is my second attempt. This time I'm going to use apple though instead of peaches. And also I modified the bottom layer, the cake layer. I took away some of the milk and I think I added a little bit more flavor like some nutmeg maybe than last time. And then also, like I said, I'm going to do apples instead. And then on top, I'm going to do the pie crust just because I didn't want to have to do one with pie crust and then one with a cake crust or a cake layer 2 different times. So I just figured I just combine them and just taste the flavors separately and see which one I like better. So that's what this video is about. It's about me prepping and baking the apple cobbler, and you'll see how it turns out. I start by making my pie crust. I add my butter to my flour mixture, which consists of white whole wheat flour, unbleached all-purpose flour, salt, and a little bit of sugar. I cut the butter in with my pastry cutter a little bit at a time until it turns into small balls. And then I use my fingers to smash the butter to make little flat pieces of butter and flour together. That helps it to create a crisp or a flaky crust. I'm adding my ice cold water to my dough a little bit at a time until it just comes together like that. And then I have some parchment paper. I place the mixture on the paper to bring the dough together. I fold the dough on top of itself, which helps it to create layers also, to make a flaky crust. This is a trick that I learned just recently, using the parchment paper to fold the dough on top of itself. I also learned that instead of adding more water, I just use a spray bottle and just spritz a little bit of water on top of the dough and then press some more, add some more layers to it. If it's still too dry, I add a little bit more water using the spray bottle. And then I weigh the dough and separate it in half. And then I place both pieces of dough in cling wrap after I shape it into a rectangle to make it easier to roll out when I'm ready to use it. So I place them in cling wrap and then in some foil and then place that inside of a freezer safe bag. Next, I put together the dry ingredients for the cobbler part of the cobbler. I use unbleached all-purpose flour, white whole wheat flour, salt, cinnamon, and some baking powder. Mix that together. Add a little bit of sugar. Next, I prepare my apples. Since this is just a personal size, a testing size, I only use 2 apples. I find that when you place a wet paper towel under a cutting board, it stops it from sliding so much. So I continue to prepare my apples. I slice them and take off. I trim them and slice them. To the apples, I add a little bit of brown sugar, a little bit of the cane sugar, unrefined, a little bit of tapioca flour, some nutmeg, cinnamon, and a little bit of vanilla. Mix that all together and I place it in the fridge overnight. Next day, I melt my butter in the oven. While that's in the oven, I am preparing my apples by adding some lemon zest. And then I add some lemon juice. I get my cobbler, or the bottom part of the cobbler, out, add more cinnamon, which I didn't realize that I added it twice. And then I add my milk. Mix that all together until the lumps are gone. That one was a little bit thicker than my first attempt with the peach cobbler. So I like the way the crust turned out this time, the cobbler part of the crust. The cobbler part of the cobbler. Anyway, I am preparing my pie crust to go on top of the cobbler. Then I add the bottom part to the pan, to the melted butter. I do not mix. Then I add my apples, my apple layer. And add my pie crust to the top of the cobbler. I figured while I was waiting for the cobbler to bake in the oven at 350, I would take the time to dip some Buckeyes. This is probably the most relaxing part of making the Buckeyes. Look at how... Okay, it is out of the oven and it smells delicious. I'll show you. It looks interesting. So I'm not really concerned about the way it looks right now. I'm just concerned about the way it tastes. And then once I get the taste right, I will work on the looks or presentation. So I'm going to get some of it out of here. Getting some apple and some of the pie crust. And I already got some of the biscuit crust in there, on the bottom of the cobbler in there. So I'm gonna try it now. Trying it. The apples are crunchy, which I like that. It's the biscuit. I mean, pie. Pie crust. Pie topping. I keep calling it pie crust, but the pie crust topping, delicious and buttery. Now this is the bottom part. I think I like the bottom part better than the pie crust. I think I like the cakey biscuit better than I do the pie crust. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think I might go with the biscuit. I kept calling it biscuit, but I guess it would be more like a cake type crust with the cobbler as opposed to the pie crust. Yeah, I'm gonna think about it and then make a final decision, but I'm leaning more towards the cakey type crust for this cobbler. And also the apples were not as, there was not a lot of liquid in there. It's not dry, but there's not liquid like a cobbler usually has. So I'll need to add some more liquid to the cobbler for the apple cobbler. I think the peach cobbler will have, excuse me, will have enough liquid in it. But yeah, I'm happy with overall the flavors, the nutmeg, the cinnamon. The flavors are on point. I just need to add a little bit more liquid, which will probably be, I don't know, maybe some apple juice or maybe some lemon juice. I don't know. We'll see. To the filling part and the crust, I'm gonna go with the cakey biscuit type crust. It's delicious, very good. So I'm gonna probably do a final one later on this week for my customer. Well, I have to do a final one. I have to do a final one for my customer. So I will try to record those results at least. If I don't record putting it together, I'll at least get the results of how it looks. And of course, I always make samples before I actually give the customer the product. So thank you for coming with me behind the scenes to learn how to bake the best cobbler, whether it be with the pie crust or with the cake crust. And like I said, I think I'm gonna go with the cake crust. All right, I will let you guys know how the customer's product turns out, and hopefully I'll hear from her and I will let you know the reviews. But until then, check out some more of my videos where I show you behind the scenes of my micro bakery.